Yeah, let's fight here with a case study, and what you're seeing here is a screenshot, and I have pixeled out all kinds of stuff. As you can see here, you are not supposed to be seeing any contacts or pictures of people's of contacts or the names of automations, etc. What I really want to highlight here for you is the correlation between the big list, as in there are 180,000 plus subscribers who are active. This is the key thing, right? Active. These are subscribed, they are reading emails, they're clicking, etc. Well, at least they haven't unsubscribed. And the activity that's going on. There are lots of click-throughs, there are lots of subscribes, there are lots of unsubscribes. Now, the unsubscribes here, just to clarify or put this into context, we've actually run an unsubscribe campaign. So this was expected. This is not the usual level. So otherwise you'd think, well, there's the same level of subscribers as unsubscribers roughly. That's normally not the case. This is, as you can see here from the contact trend, that's actually going up. And the reason it's not going up steeply because, well, at these numbers, well, it's pretty hard to ramp that up in a way that you actually see it. But if you look carefully, if you were to apply some sort of, I don't know, super horizon polished line here, then you would see this is actually going up. So what's the point of this thing? What I want to show you here is that along with this myth of having to have a big list also comes a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts. And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of building automated systems that build your list on autopilot whilst you get paid for it. That's the key thing. No one on this planet, when I say no one, hardly anyone, is born with deep pockets and can go out, set up a business and go, right, you know what, I'm going to buy myself 180,000 active contacts. A good subscriber these days, let's go for a conservative $5. Actually, that's probably a bit optimistic almost. If you build this, depends where you build it and how you build it. But if you were to just go out and buy these quality leads, let's say $5, and now you're looking at, almost $1 million to build that. So no one has that money. That's what I'm saying. In order to build up something like this, where you have all these active contacts and you get decent click-throughs and you get constant stream, and this is a constant stream of subscribers, you have to build out those things. You need to build out lead gen systems. You need to optimize them so at the end of the day you have a decent ROI, so you can actually afford this whole thing. And in order to do that, and I'm not going to show you what's behind this machine. This is just a screenshot. If you go over here, or were to go over, click on the automations, you'll see there are 140 automations behind this. There are a ton of campaigns. There is a ton of work that went into building this machine in the first place. And that's the whole point. What I'm trying to get to, and when I looked at this earlier, it came to me that really at the end of the day, this clicking and the subscribing and the engaging, if you look at the top contacts, that's really where the focus should be. It's the classic 80-20 principle, if not the 95-5, or probably the 80-20 of that, the 99-1, right? You probably get 99% of your business and the engagement and the lifetime value and all that good stuff from 1% of your subscribers, and then it goes from there. So it's the typicals, whatever that curve is, the exponential curve. And then when I looked at that, I thought the key here really is, or the aim where people can afford to build a list without building out all these automations, is of course the idea of the 1,000 raving fans. Now, I can also tell you this is not my account. This is I do some consulting for someone else, and this is their account. And don't get me wrong, they do very well for themselves. However, my personal approach is a very different one. I aim for the 1,000 raving fans, and I constantly prune my list and kick people off the list. Anyone who doesn't engage, fuck them. That sounds horrible, but it's not meant to be. They're lovely people, etc., but they're just not a good fit for what I'm looking to build. I'm looking for just the 1,000 raving fans who've been on my list for absolutely ever and ever. I don't, this year would shock me if I had six unsubscribed in 11 minutes or whatever this is, in a day. I'm not going to show it to you, but I can tell you that this year I think I've had 2 unsubscribes. That's it. And that is, well, because people move on. One of them actually apologized. She said to me, look, I'm really sorry. Love being on your list. I have now moved on. I've retired. I no longer need it. So 2 unsubscribes. One of them apologized in person. I never know. It was Sue. Anyway, so before this turns into a rambling, long video, the key thing I want to drive home is when you are exposed to the idea that you need a giant list, let me put it this way. A giant list typically translates into more revenue. If you look at the idea, the fundamental number of about $1 per subscriber per month, that's quite realistic and it is achievable without much effort. So make no mistake, you can make a lot of money. There's a lot of money in this list. Of course, as a side note, money is typically the currency where you get paid for value you provide. But that as an aside, once you've figured out how to serve those 180,000 subscribers, you can realistically expect to make $1 back. If, however, then you get your arse into gear and really figure out what it is they really, really want, then that number, there's pretty much no limit. My personal numbers were somewhere between $8 and $10. And now you're starting to see, okay, let me put it this way. Mine were between $8 and $10, and there are reasons for it. I can explain those in a separate video. I know personally of others who went easily towards the $20. I know personally of other business owners, entrepreneurs, who went into the $20, $30, $40 per subscriber per month range. It is all doable. And let's say you have 1,000 subscribers, and let's say you go for the middle of this range. You go somewhere between the $15 and $20. But for a lot of people, 15 to 20k a month is actually very, very decent income. So, to wrap up this whole thing, do you need a giant list? Well, let me put it this way. It's one way of doing it. If you figure out how to build a list on pretty much autopilot and serve them in some form and get that $1 back, that is awesome. Good on you. I would argue that for a lot of people, if they want to avoid the whole having to build out all these automations and all that stuff on the back end and systems that generate leads on autopilot and pay for themselves, etc., a much better aim, a much better goal would be those 1,000 raving fans. And, be quite ruthless when it comes to people on your list who are not a good fit. And of course, that starts with your marketing in the beginning. Start out with, you know what, I'm going to sit down and figure out what is my mission. In my mission, what is that raving fan? Where they're at in life? How am I serving them? What is it they're trying to solve? And if money played no role and I could have all day to serve them in the perfect way, what is it I would give them? And once you figure that out, you can now build everything you're doing around that idea of the one raving fan. Not the 1,000, but the one raving fan. You get in, you serve supremely well, and because you provide so much value, they give you that 10, 20, maybe $30, $40 per month on average. Because you're just delivering so much more value. It's not worth their while trying to figure out this stuff by themselves. So there you go. I would say 2 extremes, and of course you can choose anything in the middle. This here is basically a mass approach. Willing to put in the time and effort and energy to build out those automations, build out those lead gen systems, and make sure they pay for themselves, etc., etc. Or the other extreme would be to say, the only thing I ever concentrate on is those 1,000 raving fans. And if it's more than 1,000, hey, they're fine. That's icing on the cake. But in the beginning, full focus on the 1,000, which is really encapsulated by the one. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to figure out who's that one? Who's that one raving fan you can serve extremely well? Because then you don't need to worry about subscribes being balanced out by unsubscribes. You don't even need to focus massively on the subscribers. You just build up slowly over time to those 1,000 and then focus on serving them extremely well. And when someone like Sue unsubscribes, you find one other person. Maybe you'd even instill it in your in your tribe, that you say, hey, by the way, when you think of retiring from my list, please make sure you have someone to replace you. I mean, why not? There you go. 10 minutes of, an insight into list building, what you could be focusing on, because a lot of the time, of course, the big focus in the marketplace is this is how you build a giant list, and everything's going to be good and hunky-dory. Well, yes, it is, but the way there involves a lot of time and money and energy and focus and attention and automations, and there you go. So it's not personally my thing, but it works extremely well as well. Alrighty, cheers, bye.